Welcome to Believers Talk. My name is Joe. Welcome to a live edition of Believers Talk, where we're going to look a little bit into what ESPN reported earlier today, that they agree that Coach McDermott might be the first coach fired from the NFL. We'll obviously talk about that. Just wanted to get on here, get live on this Tuesday evening. So again, welcome to Believers Talk. My name is Joe. If you're new to this channel, if you're watching for the first time, you want to hit that subscribe button. Lots of fun things coming in 2019. I do want to get everyone's opinion on Coach McDermott. What do they think? I mean, you're talking about a guy who's been playing, or who's been with the Buffalo Bills now for 2 seasons, entering his 3rd season with the Buffalo Bills. And we'll talk about the coaching history of the Buffalo Bills. Sean McDermott, our 20th head coach in the Buffalo Bills history. We'll go into a little bit of detail about the coaching standpoint, where he sits, and what can we expect from him. Welcome, Timothy. Yeah, I think it's crazy too. ESPN reporting about Coach McDermott. And again, I want to get your guys' opinion on Coach McDermott over 2 seasons, how you think he's done. Obviously, that first season ending that 17-year long playoff drought, going 9-7, and then losing in the playoffs in the first round last year, going 6-10. Obviously, did not meet some Bills fans' expectations, but at the same time, if you've been watching this team and if you've been following this channel and others, we knew this was going to happen. And, I know a lot of people are excited. Is that clickbait? No, we're going to talk about Coach McDermott being fired. Uzi T on ESPN this morning, they talked about how they think Coach McDermott is on the hot seat. So, no, this is not clickbait. That's what they were talking about. So I do want to get into that. Hey, Trix, how you doing? McDermott not getting fired anytime soon. I would agree with you. But again, we're going to talk about that. And like I said, I'll bring up the coaching tree from the Buffalo Bills past. Again, Coach McDermott, the 20th head coach in Buffalo Bills history. Hey, Timothy, how we doing? And again, like I said, and as Timothy said, he was getting better and better to me. We knew that we were going to go through some growing pains. We knew that was going to happen. So we just didn't want to be now. Excuse me for 1 second. And it's just unfortunate that ESPN thinks that. I just don't believe that it is that close. I don't think that he is potentially the first coach to be fired. But we'll see. We'll see what happens here. Just give me 1 second, guys. I might have to walk away for 1 second. So if anyone comes in, let them know that. Okay, never mind. We're good. So glad I didn't have to go anywhere. But we do want to talk about that. And no, this is not clickbait. Like I said, if you guys followed the report, ESPN this morning came out and said that they feel like Coach McDermott is the most likely coach to be fired in the NFL. And we'll talk more about that, maybe why they say that. Play a little devil's advocate too. I'll tell you why they might have said that coming up. So pay attention to that as well. Anyway, but before we get into that, guys, I do want to talk about 2019. Again, if this is your first time here, we will give you live play-by-play reaction to every single Buffalo Bills game. Believers Talk is teaming up with #Sports, and we are going to give you live coverage of every single Buffalo Bills regular season game this season. Won't be able to show the game, but obviously we will give you live recap and reaction to every game, whether it be on YouTube here, or if you look in the links below, sportscaster.com/#sports will have you covered. Either it's going to be Mario and Paul from #, or it's going to be me from Believers Talk. Hit that subscribe button here. Go over to #sports. Hit that subscribe button over there as well. Again, lots of fun stuff coming in 2019. Not only am I teaming up with #sports to keep you covered there, also teamed up with BewareTheStampede.com. Go to BewareTheStampede.com for all your Bills information, whether you're talking roster news. It has a countdown to every single game. If you're wondering, hey, when's that Lions game? We know it's Friday. How many hours? I can't wait. Go on to BewareTheStampede.com. It has a countdown going for you. Has the schedule on there. Has stadium information. All kinds of information. Buffalo Bills Hall of Famers. You can find it all right there on BewareTheStampede.com. So go ahead and check that out as well. So let's talk about Sean McDermott. Again, guys, thank you for joining me on Believers Talk. My name is Joe. If this is your first time, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Like this video. Guys, if you're not new, or even if you are new, share this video. Let people know that we're talking about Coach McDermott and what do we feel his chances are being fired this season. And you're a Buffalo sports fan, like I said, not trying to clickbait here. That's what ESPN came out with this morning. I'm not trying to clickbait. That was not my intention when I created the thumbnail. I was just trying to see what people thought. Again, that's something that ESPN brought up. I did not bring this up. That's why I'm going live this evening to talk to you guys about it. I think I put a question mark next to the thumbnail just because it is a question, right? That's all it is right now. It's just a question. If you look at our coaching history, it's not unfathomable that he might be fired this year. If you look at the Buffalo Bills schedule, Buffalo Bills schedule does have, it is pretty easy at the beginning of the schedule, right? You talk about the Jets, Giants, Bengals without AJ Green. The Patriots are always going to be tough. But you do have to ask yourself, if we start 1-2, does that mean that Sean McDermott's going to be fired? If you look at our coaching history, we've had 10 coaches since Marv Levy's left, guys. We've had 10 coaches this decade or this millennium, I should say, from 2000 to 2019. So we've had our history of coaches, a long history of coaches. Most of them have not lasted all that long. You look at Mike Mularkey, only lasted 2 years. He went 14-18 in his 2 years. Not too much better of a record. If you look at 15-17, actually tied with Doug Marrone, and he has a worse record than Rex Ryan did after 2 seasons as well. Rex Ryan went 15-16, was fired for that last week, the week that Anthony Lynn was the coach. So it does bear the question. Will Sean McDermott, if he starts poorly, if he starts 1-2, or if he starts 0-3, what will his job status be at that time? Again, guys, I think Coach McDermott is safe. I do not think there's going to be any problems, but they're saying it because Bills made playoffs 3 years ago. Yeah, you're probably right. Listen, like 2 years ago, the Bills made the playoffs, and I've talked to lots of Buffalo Bills fans about this, and they really weren't expecting to make the playoffs 2 years ago. I mean, nobody really gave them a chance, and that's kind of when a few episodes ago I talked about media and media outlets not giving the Buffalo Bills any respect, and that comes down to it. No one was giving us respect 2 years ago. We make the playoffs, and all of a sudden, our expectations higher because we probably didn't deserve to make the playoffs that year. The year we made the playoffs, there were teams that were more talented than we were, but we just had the heart, the determination, the grit. We saw the locker room speech that Kyle Williams gave, talking about how everyone counted them out except for them. Really a heartfelt speech. So we were all happy to see that, but we knew there would be growing pains. We've actually gotten stronger. Pegulas don't fire without cause. And you look at the Pegulas history, we have to look at the Buffalo Sabres, right? And the Sabres coaching tree hasn't exactly been great either. So even though the Pegulas might not fire without cause, if they look at, the Pegulas are really in charge of Brandon Beane, the GM. And if they look at the GM and say, hey, things are not going the way we want them to, well, then the GM has to make that decision. In my opinion, I feel this team hasn't looked this good since the 90s. Beane and McDermott have pieced together a good, solid team here. I would go as far as putting the Bills in the top tier as far as coaching goes. The killer Matt, again, first time I've seen a comment from you. You might have commented before. I completely agree with you. If you look at GM coach combo with what the Buffalo Bills have been able to build here, adding players through free agency and coaching them up, I think they've done a good job. I mean, you look at last year, you look at the QB carousel that was going on, and Coach McDermott is a defensive guy, but he was still able to get Matt Barkley in there, and we were still able to beat the Jets. Why is that the title? What did I miss? Chris, you didn't miss anything. Again, McDermott was not fired. Nothing happened. Again, ESPN came out this morning and said that they feel like Sean McDermott is on the hot seat, and he is likely to be the first coach fired. Most likely to be the first coach fired this NFL season. And I just wanted to talk about that and see what you guys thought about that. But Chris, thank you for joining me on Believers Talk. Timothy, again, thanks for joining me, guys. If you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, like this video, share this video. I don't know why people think this is a clickbait. It's not, I promise. This is something that ESPN did bring up this morning, and like I said, I just wanted to get all of your opinion on it. And I agree with all of you. I just don't understand how ESPN can even say that. I would love to have. I was obviously at work when this came out, but I would love to have been able to listen to hear why they think that Coach McDermott would be the first coach fired, or is most likely to be the first coach fired. Maybe it has something to do with the easy schedule that the Bills have to jump out the gate. there. Stu McDermott is going nowhere. Love the team. And Chris, again, I agree with you. I do not disagree with you at all. I love this team that they've put together. We can't do anything about the injuries. Unfortunately, they do happen. You look at this offensive line. Offensive line was 27th last year, 28th ranked, and now all of a sudden, what do? We pretty much changed the whole offensive line, right? I mean, we changed 4 of the 5 offensive line positions. So we'll see what happens, obviously, with Mitch Morse. A couple of small injuries here and there that we want to see them get healed and healthy before the start of the regular season. But you got to like what they did at the wide receiver position. You talk about John Brown, Cole Beasley. We'll see what happens there. This defense, I mean, look at this defense under Rex Ryan, a defensive guy, went to 15th mid-pack in the league, and they have, between him and Leslie Frazier, have it down to no more. Yeah, ESPN. I haven't watched that channel in years. Absolutely. I don't disagree. I mean, again, when they come up with stuff like this, it's hard to watch sometimes because they don't really know what they're talking about. They see a team from the outside. They don't really have an inside perspective of what the Buffalo Bills are doing here. You talk about a team that was struggling for 17 years, didn't make the playoffs, and I want to say mediocrity, but some years it wasn't even mediocrity. It was just plain right. We stunk. Finishing 3-13, 4-12, and yet we see improvement. As Bills fans, we see improvement. We see constantly trying to get better. We look at this defense again with Leslie Frazier and Coach McDermott, and here we are, ranked number 1 in pass defense, the second best defense in the league. No one's giving us any respect. I mean, again, NFL on Fox put a poll out on Twitter not too long ago about who's the best secondary in the NFL. They named 4 secondaries, and guess who was on that list? Oh yeah, the number 1 pass defense from 2018, and that's the Buffalo Bills. And I think we're one of the most underrated teams in the NFL, and I think we are going to surprise a lot of people this season. I think that is definitely going to happen because you look at this team. From a talent perspective, we have a lot more talent on this team than we did 2 years ago. You look at this defense, we've only changed 1 starter from last year to this year, now possibly 2. But you're talking about Kyle Williams, of course, getting traded out with Ed Oliver, and that's not a bad thing. Not a bad trade-off. I mean, I loved Kyle Williams, but you look at Ed Oliver, and he just looks like he's demanding a double team every time in these preseason games, and he's really looking impressive. Like I said in a previous video, I just want to sign him right now to like a 10-year, $17-18 million a year contract because when his contract runs out, it's going to cost more than that to keep him on this team. So sign him now to a long-term contract because this guy could be a stud. And and I know it's only preseason, but it's definitely looking that way. But let's talk about the coaching tree. Early this season, watch out. I agree. Our talent is for real. Chris says our talent is for real. But let's talk about our coaching tree since Marv Levy. Okay, so Marv Levy last coached in 1997, finished with a record of 182 and 112. 112 and 70. He coached in 182 games, 112 and 70. Went to 19 playoff games, finished 11 and 8 in those playoff games. Next, of course, we get Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips goes 29 and 19 as a head coach for the Buffalo Bills. Goes to 2 playoff games, goes 0-2 in those playoff games. Of course, most memorable one, the Music City forward pass that we all remember where they played Rob Johnson instead, Doug Flutie. Then we go through 9 head coaches: Greg Williams, Mike Mularkey, Dick Jauron, Perry Farrell, Chan Gailey, Doug Marrone. Remember Doug Marrone? Doug Marrone left Buffalo after Ralph Wilson died. He actually, after 2 seasons, had a record very similar to Coach McDermott. In fact, exactly similar at 15 and 17 after 2 seasons. Went 9 and 7 his second season. Everyone thought, okay, here's where we turn around. Owner Ralph Wilson dies. There's a clause in his contract saying that he can get out. He gets out, goes to Jacksonville to be the QB coach or something crazy like that, and now, of course, is the head coach of Jacksonville. But remember when Doug Marrone left? A lot of people in Buffalo were very upset, me included, because he just took us to a 9-7 season, and we thought, hey, maybe this could be the start of something new. Hey, TD Finstock, how you doing? Always glad to join you on your live stream. Welcome to Believers Talk. Yeah, we're just talking about Coach McDermott and the potential of him being fired. A story was put out by ESPN this morning about how they thought Coach McDermott is on the hot seat and he might be he was voted most likely to be the first coach fired this year, and I just don't see that happening again. Maybe if we get off to a weak start, I mean, if we go 0-2 in the first two games against the New York, New Jersey Jets and Giants, then maybe you have something to talk about. Maybe you can make an argument, depending how we play in those games too. It's all dependent on how we play in those games. But I just find it hard to believe that we're going to take a microcosm of a coaching career, which would only be those two games, and say he's worth being fired over that, because first year makes the playoffs. Second year, we end the season on a great note, killing Miami. No offense, TD Finns talk, but we looked really good in that game, and so everyone's optimistic going into the season. But now, here we are, right before the season starts, August 20th, and analysts are saying, "Oh, he's going to be the first coach fired." First of all, the idea that you're voting on who the first coach fired is going to be is outrageous to me. Why would you do that? You don't want to see people get fired, and yet you're voting on it. I just don't think that's okay, but that goes to show you the content that they now have on ESPN, so I'm kind of glad I don't watch them anymore. If they're double teaming Oliver, I want to see inside pressure from Star. Absolutely, Pianowitz, and thank you for commenting. I agree with you. We didn't see a lot of inside pressure from Star Latuile last season. Definitely should see that improve this year if Ed Oliver is demanding double teams, because according to Mario from over at #Sports, agrees with this completely. Star was taking up double teams last year, and that's why his stats did showing better. And that's possible. Mario might be right, but this is the year for Star to prove that. Then, if Star comes out and he has the same statistical year as last year, and we see Ed Oliver taking all the double teams, then there's obviously a problem. However, if we see the outside edge guys getting a lot of pressure, and both of those guys taking up double teams, then maybe it's a good thing. Anyway, we trust the process, right? Rick, you're absolutely right. We do trust the process. Evil Crazy 8, welcome to Believers Talk. ESPN writers suck, especially Mike Brodak. Well, the good thing is Mike Brodak is actually not the Buffalo Bills reporter anymore, and the guy that is the ESPN reporter for the Buffalo Bills actually was at training camp, which people commented that they don't think they ever saw Mike Brodak at training camp, and I wouldn't disagree with that. But the Buffalo Bills do have a new beat reporter for ESPN, so I do look forward to see what he has to say. So far, I've liked what he had. I mean, obviously it's only been one off season, but I've liked what he's done. He was at training camp every single day. He's been at our preseason games. So how long will that continue? We'll wait and see, but we'll see how good he does. That guy was garbage. I think it's hard to criticize. I would love to have Mike Broderick's job, but I know a lot of Bills fans didn't like him, especially since he was from New England and he was a Patriots fan. That didn't help his cause any. But they definitely have a hard job to do, because working for ESPN, you try to stay unbiased, but you're covering a team. You should try to at least support that team. And I felt like Mike Brodak on a lot of occasions did not even support the Buffalo Bills or try spin it in a good light. He just was constantly down on them. But look at the position Mike Brodak was put in. He was given a team that at the time hadn't made the playoffs in 14 straight years. Going from New England to that team must have been a hard shake for him. So interesting to see that as well. But again, you look at our coaching history. You look at since Marv Levy, you could throw Wade Phillips in there, good head coach. We went down the list, went to Doug Marrone, who again was 15-17 in his first two seasons. And then of course we get Rex Ryan. A lot of Bills fans are excited about that. I wasn't, because that meant we changed from a 4-3 defense, which was top 5 in the league, to a 3-4 defense. And if you know anything about the difference between 4-3 and 3-4, there's a big difference in personnel. And so I kind of knew that the defense would take a step back, and obviously it did. And we can get into on another episode how much I don't solely blame Rex Ryan for his tenure in Buffalo. I don't think he helped any. I don't think he did good or anything like that. He deserved to be fired. However, I don't completely blame him at all. Christian Wade, if he had scored on that pass play, he was making someone's active roster. Chris, again, we have that we have that practice squad placed just for Christian Wade, and I think that's where he's going to go. I think I just really think that there's still a lot of work to be done with Christian Wade, and that's not a knock on Christian Wade. He's been a rugby player for how long? I think that there's still some work there. He's a very, very talented player, and a very, very talented just person overall. Just has a lot of physical ability that is awesome to see. But I think he's a year away from possibly making a roster. Then after Rex Ryan, of course, Rex Ryan went 15-16 in 2 seasons. But obviously the way he did it was a little bit different. And we wanted to see, after going 9-7, we thought we were on the up and up. And then it turned out that we weren't as much on the up and up as we thought. I think he went 8-8 the first year, and then was 6-9 or 7-8 the second year. Finished 7-8 the second year. So he was 15-16. We bring in Anthony Lynn for a game. They lose that game as well. But now we're on Coach McDermott, right? Coach McDermott comes in 2017. We make the playoffs. First time in 17 years, the Buffalo Bills are in the playoffs. I remember watching that game. I remember everything. It was New Year's Eve, the day we made the playoffs. The day that Boyd scored that touchdown against Baltimore, and my New Year's Eve plans completely changed from that moment on. So it was just a fun time to watch. But anyway. And now, last year we finished 6-10. And a lot of people would say that's disappointing. But if you look at what happened, if you were a Bills fan, if you were watching this team, it was disappointing because you hate to lose. But at the same time, you kind of understood. I mean, we went through 4 quarterbacks last year. 4 quarterbacks. Now, starting Nathan Peterman was obviously a terrible choice. But at the same time, the only guy behind Nathan Peterman was rookie Josh Allen. So he really didn't help himself out by giving himself no options. Again, if you guys were watching last year, you know how upset I was that we did not have a veteran on this team come the start of the regular season to start. I don't consider Nathan Peterman as a veteran because he didn't start his first year in the league, and or not much at least, and he didn't play well when he did. He did play well in the preseason last year, and we all know how much John Gruden's loving some Nathan Peterman right now. But that was obviously a poor decision, not just by Coach McDermott, though, by the whole coaching staff and by Brandon Beane by not bringing in a veteran quarterback. But I just really, Coach should have McDermott on the hot seat. I'd say Vrabel, Marrone, Jay Gruden, and maybe even Gase if things don't go well. I would agree with you on Jay Gruden, especially Doug Marrone, possibly, yeah. There are some preseason Hall of Fame. Yeah, someone at Hashtag Sports was doing a video and someone called him Mr. August or something like that. So they got a kick out of that. So that's funny. If we stay out this year, you see us going 12-4. I am going to come out with my prediction video soon. I think what ESPN said is crazy. Going back to the original report and the reason why I'm here, I think what ESPN said is crazy and absurd. I think you can find a few coaches more than who Uzi T just named who are ahead of Doug Marrone on the hot seat. I would even go as far as say Mike Tomlin is on the hot seat. If Pittsburgh Steelers get off to a bad start, can you imagine people in Pittsburgh? There's a lot of people in Pittsburgh already calling for his head. So be interesting to see what happens if this is true. Like if they get off to let's say they start 1-3, or let's say they start 1-4, whatever the case might be, 2-2, whatever it is, they'll be calling for Mike Tomlin's head. So glad I'm finally catching the show live. Welcome, Malik. Always glad to have you on here. McDermott is not in the hot seat as ESPN suggests. However, if we don't make the playoffs this season, will be a failure to me. If we don't finish above 500, it would be a failure to me, right? If we finish 9-7, miss the playoffs, okay, it's a disappointment because we missed the playoffs, but I'm not, I think Coach McDermott would be on the hot seat the following year. I think this year it would be an added bonus to make the playoffs, but next year it should definitely be an expectation that this team makes the playoffs. And again, Coach McDermott, GM Brandon Beane, they go where Josh Allen goes, right? They drafted Josh Allen 7th overall. That means that they go where Josh Allen goes. If Josh Allen succeeds, that means the team succeeds. That means they're not going anywhere. If Josh Allen bombs and the team does not succeed, then that could spell trouble for Coach McDermott and Brandon Beane. And if and I'm not going to say that if Josh Allen doesn't look horrible this season that they don't get fired during the offseason, but I don't think that he's going to be fired within the first 5-6 weeks of the season. I think because one thing, we have a bye week 4, right, or week 5. I'm sorry, week 5. So is it possible maybe that they make the change on the bye week? I don't think so. You're talking about the New England Patriots. I understand if we start 0-4, it'd be really tough for me to say that Coach McDermott's seat isn't getting warm. But with what Coach McDermott has done with this team, I think he's actually done a good job. Again, the 9-7 season, we probably won at least 1, maybe 2 games just because of the coaching staff and having us well prepared for a game. I'm not going to put that all on Coach McDermott, but at the same time, I'm not going to not deny him credit either for that. I think between him, Leslie Frazier, and a bunch of the other coaches there, I remember we had Ed Reed as our secondary head coach back then. I mean, a lot of the coaches there led to the success of that team, gave us a couple extra wins. Last season, we expected some rebuild when we had 4 different quarterbacks in there. We expect, there's no team in NFL history that if you said, oh, they had 4 different starting quarterbacks, that they actually did well. The closest to that would be New England the year Tom Brady was suspended, when they had Garoppolo in there, and then he got hurt, and then Jacoby Brissett came in for a game against the Bills. They lost 16-0, I believe that game was, and then Brady came back, and obviously Brady was Brady, and they did just fine. I think they won the Super Bowl that year, so they did just fine. But still, no one has, we started Nathan Peterman last year, Josh Allen, then we went on to Anderson, and then we went on to Matt Barkley, then went back to Josh Allen. So, and Josh Allen looked pretty good in those last 3 games. So, I think there's a lot to look forward to this season. I do want us to make the playoffs, of course. I do see us making the playoffs, but if we go 9-7, lose out on the playoffs, maybe even 8-8, it wouldn't be considered a lost year in my book. But then next year, I have the expectation of making the playoffs. And then next year, to me, that means next year, Coach McDermott would be on the hot seat if we don't make the playoffs this season. But again, guys, let me know what you think. I'm glad to have talked to all of you in the comment section. If you're not watching this live, you catch this later, then just let me know what you think in the comment section. Let me know if you agree with ESPN and their prediction that Coach McDermott, as they voted, would be the first one fired this season in the NFL? Or do you think there are a few more guys, as Uzi T said, as I believe someone else said in the comment section, that are ahead of Coach McDermott as far as on the hot seat? I agree with that. I don't think that Coach McDermott is anywhere near the hot seat. I think his seat is lukewarm at best. I think, like I said, Mike Tomlin would be ahead of him. I would say, I wouldn't disagree that Adam Gase might be ahead of Coach McDermott. I would think that Jay Gruden would be ahead of Coach McDermott, and there's a few others that you could put in there before Coach McDermott as far as being on the hot seat. So I look forward to watching the season with you guys. Again, check out #sports, check out Believers Talk, check out sportscaster.com/sports. We will be there all season covering the Buffalo Bills live, play-by-play and reaction to every single Buffalo Bills regular season game, including that Thanksgiving game. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Notifies you when we go live, notifies you when we post new videos, always post new content. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, leave a comment, like this video, follow us on Twitter. All those links in the description below. If Allen looks bad, or we still can't run the ball, I think Dable goes, if anything. Yeah, Dable. That's the coach that's probably in the hot seat first. Watch for Coach Dable to see what happens there, and then we'll see what happens after that. But as long as Coach Dable's there, I think Sean McDermott's going to be just fine. But you do have to think about and the reason why Dable's on the hot seat is because we changed offensive line coach, we changed our wide receiver coach, we changed a lot of the coaches on that offensive side of the ball, except for offensive coordinator. So that's why I think Coach Dable is on the hot seat. I would agree with that statement by Uzi T. But I do not think Coach McDermott's on the hot seat just yet. We'll wait a little bit to see. I think Coach McDermott is on the hot seat, but obviously some people do. But just let me know if you agree with that. I'll talk to you all soon. Until I do, go Bills.